Well, hello, everybody. And I've already said good morning to the live group here, but good morning or afternoon, evening to some of you. We are here on our live Q&A, live recorded Q&A episode of the podcast. I'm here with Danny today.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I'm excited for some good questions we already have.
Yes, fantastic. Colleen is teaching, so she will not be joining us today. We are very glad to be here. If you'd ever like to join this podcast, we do take email questions, but a lot of the times we run out of time to do the email questions because we take the live questions here first. But if you would ever like to join it, we do this type of episode, the Q&A type of episode once a month. Usually they're kind of the second or third Wednesday of the month, somewhere in there. We have to adjust that sometimes due to teaching or traveling, things like that. But you can go to the podcast tab on the Reiki Lifestyle or reikilifestyle.com, and you can sign up to get the links to join. So we send them out the morning of, and you can get the link to join this episode. So, and if you've signed up, you don't need to sign up twice. And always make sure to check your spam for Reiki Lifestyle emails, because sometimes they go into spam. There are ways that you can ask questions anonymously so that you're not in the recording. Sometimes, a lot of times we have people that show up on the recordings, but we also have questions that come in direct messages in the chat, and also people that just put them in the chat so you don't have to actually be on the recording. I know sometimes that is what can hold people back from joining. So just so you know, you can come in, have your video off. Some people need to come late, others need to leave early. We keep it relatively casual so that you can come in and have questions answered if you would like. So a couple of announcements. We will be teaching Animal Reiki when this is released. It will be this weekend, but it is Wednesday, May 1st and 2nd is Animal Reiki 1 and 2, and the Animal Reiki Master is the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Again, you can go to reikilifestyle.com in the Animal Reiki tab to find out more. Amazing classes. We teach it with myself, Colleen, and Sue Strong, who are 3 of the 4 authors and creators of the course and manuals. So if you have any questions about that, always feel free to get in touch, email us, direct message us, all of those kinds of things. All right, Danny, did I get everything?
And did you want to mention that you guys also have Reiki, Karuna Reiki coming up too in May?
Yeah, that would be great. Colleen is teaching Karuna Reiki in May. I don't know what the dates are of that. Do you have those dates, Danny? The 17th through the 19th. And Colleen only teaches Karuna Reiki a few times a year. And it's an amazing class. You learn so much. The energy is incredible. And then also you learn things like how to chant and tone. Some of you already know how to do that, but you do that with the Karuna Reiki symbols. And like I said, she only teaches a couple times a year. I think the next class might be not until October, somewhere around there usually.
Right. It's the end of summer, I believe.
Oh, end of summer. So anyway, yeah. Again, go to reikilifestyle.com to find out more information about that. Okay. Well, I think what we'll go ahead and do is we will go into our invocation, which is kind of like a Reiki guided meditation. It's just bringing in the Reiki energy to help support all of us in this conversation. We do invocations for so much of our work because, again, it is just helping that Reiki energy to drop in, support the deeper level of answers that are kind of from that really listening into that higher perspective, I should say, in addition to our human perspective also. So it's just really helpful to hear and speak at a different level, I would say. And so that is why we find invocations so important, and we do them for pretty much everything we do. So we'll go ahead and go into that. I don't know if it'll be that long. They're channeled, so We'll just see where it takes us, but I don't know if it'll be that long today. All right. Also, I like to turn my video off for them. Okay, so you can close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And place your hands in Gasho. Gasho is that prayer position at your heart. And allow the Reiki light to flow down through your hands and into your heart. Bringing your awareness fully into this moment in time. Embodied right here, right now. And Reiki Ho, just bringing your thumbs up to your third eye. Indication of spirit and the second pillar of Reiki. And back down to your heart. Receiving Reiki. Breathing it in. Filling you up. And letting go on the out breath. Busyness or tension in your body. Just dropping deeper into that grounded awareness. Stress reduction. A calm nervous system. And breathing in on the in-breath. Empowerment. Your own inner truth and inner authority. Your inner vision and unique vision. Your intuition. It's all right here within you. You can place your hands comfortably on your body, giving yourself Reiki. You're not attuned. Just breathe in the Reiki light that's surrounding you. And we call in the Reiki energy. Any symbols that you may be attuned to support this circle here today and those that are listening later. As it fills the space that you're in. The power of love and of you. And your beautiful uniqueness in the world. Your higher mind and higher self. Listening for your highest good. And your divine self, your divine connection, the heartbeat of creation and of the earth. All connected right here within you and all around you. And the Reiki energy clearing and filling that space that you're in. And training you to the frequencies of Reiki within you. And the enlightened ones are here and supporting you. And they shine their light onto you and in you. And you fill with the pure, unconditional love of their light. And on the out breath, you let go the things that are of a denser frequency than that unconditional, pure love of the enlightened ones. And your feet are connected to the earth. Beautiful gratitude and exchange and love with the earth. How much she loves you as well. And we call in the Reiki energy to support this circle today from all of the places that we join and all of the differences and beliefs. How beautiful we can come together and share in these ways. Talk about these ways. Share in conversations based in love. The frequencies of that as they extend into the world. Full of Reiki. And we say thank you to each other. So our circle is divinely ordered and we are meant to be here together today. And those that are listening later, thank you. To the enlightened ones, to the ancestors, for bringing us these ways. Thank you. We're so very grateful. To the Reiki energy, and gratitude for all that you add to the planet and the awareness of the accessibility of the Reiki energy. Thank you. And to the teachers who have come before us and the students that will come after, carrying these waves. Thank you. And now place your hands on your heart space. Just for today, I will not anger or worry. Just for today, I am full of gratitude. Just for today, I am devoted to who I am, my authentic self, what I can share in this world. Just for today, I am kind and compassionate. to myself and to others. Thank you. And so it is. And so when you're ready, you can come fully back in and open your eyes. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And Kathy, I see your chat. I've got you on the list as well. All right. And it's always nice to spend some time being in that space and in that energy. So if you're there, you can just allow it to continue to wash over you. But we will go ahead and get going with some of the questions. And Kara, your question is actually up first.
Oh, I can speak up. Thank you for asking. I was, excuse me, I was asking about who has had clients who have had PTSD or similar experiences with deep trauma and how you've worked with them and what kind of results did you see? Like how many sessions? And for those who have become Reiki masters, have you used any of the techniques that you've learned as a Reiki master to assist your clients?
Yeah, great question, Kara. And I know we have another perspective here that would like to share as well. So, Margaret Mary, I'll come to you in just a minute. I definitely have worked with people who have had PTSD as well as CPTSD, which is complex PTSD. And for those of you that may not know what PTSD stands for, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. It can also be post-traumatic stress syndrome. There's a few other parts of the acronym that can be a part of that. I like that you said experience, Kara. So I would say when it comes to working with people with PTSD or other mental health experiences, diagnoses, I would say one of the most important things, first and foremost, is to always know that Reiki is a complementary therapy. And Kara, I know that you know that, but that is one of the things that always is important to establish up front with it, is that it is to be used in conjunction with mental health treatment, if that is what somebody is at the very least already doing. Maybe it is something that the Reiki can help them to seek is mental health support as well. One of the things that I have seen with Reiki and PTSD is that actually one of the clients that I had was a little bit afraid of seeking support for their PTSD, which I don't want to say is common, but it's something that, I've heard of people experiencing with that. And it actually supported them in seeking both forms of teaching or of treatment. So the Reiki energy kind of released the fear, it released the blocks to seeking mental health support, in addition to having the Reiki energy help with that support. So that would be one of the biggest things that I would say is establishing that up front with people, is that, it's a complementary therapy and that it works beautifully in addition to other forms of support as well. And that is something that I have seen firsthand on multiple times, but specifically, there is a time that I have seen that where it actually was able to get to the deep spiritual levels. In conjunction with the mental health, it accelerated some of the benefits of their therapy that they were also with. It accelerated the timeline in which their healing occurred with it. Also, one of the things that it does is because a lot of times PTSD can be stored in the body. That trauma can be stored in the body, as well as from the mental emotional perspective. It can really help in the physical aspects of Reiki can help in the physical aspects of releasing the places where the trauma might be stored in the body, that it can then, go to that place, help release where that is, which in turn also helps support the mental and emotional aspects of the PTSD as well. So that is one thing that I would like to say as well. And that actually, in my experience with it, that actually was incredibly helpful, because some forms of therapy may work with that aspect of it and others may not. And so if you can have these two things working in in this beautiful symbiotic relationship together, it actually has been so effective to help with that, because it can help with anxiety, it can help with stress, obviously. So the stress reduction aspect of it, helping with that fight or flight response, that can be a really big part of PTSD. Also really helping overcome fear are the things that I've seen with Reiki with it. Now, again, I just want to really stress that it is absolutely okay to, making sure that and I know this might be even a little bit redundant, to have the conversations about that complementary aspect of Reiki. So that's a big piece of it. I also know people that, have said, and have had clients that have said that Reiki was a part of the missing piece to their other treatment, that because of the deep levels that Reiki energy can penetrate, that it was a part of the missing piece, and that the aspects of their other forms of treatment, were having a harder time to penetrate those really deep levels. And it's not to say that that wouldn't have happened over time for them, but it also, like I said before, kind of accelerated that aspect for them, because it is able to have those deep levels. Also, I know therapists that are also Reiki practitioners, and depending on the type of their practice, some of them can't combine the two modalities, some of them can, or some of them have just become Reiki practitioners, and because of that, are able to kind of integrate some of their other skills within their Reiki sessions. So as far as tools that I have found really helpful. First and foremost, I want to say that one of the things that is amazing about Reiki energy is that you don't necessarily need to know what to do or use additional tools and what to do, because Reiki energy knows what to do. So if you're like, especially in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Or even if it's an experience or a type of client that you haven't experienced before, Reiki energy always knows what to do. So all you have to do as a practitioner is ask, Reiki on, and be in sessions with them, giving them Reiki energy. So you don't you don't have to have all of the answers for it. You just have to provide Reiki, and the Reiki energy is going to help. But I will say some of the tools that I have used, if I'm talking about just kind of more straight traditional Reiki in general, because with the other skills, there's different things that that I have done and experienced with people with PTSD, is Biosen scanning can be very, very helpful with it. So, because that can indicate where trauma might be stored in the body, and it can be stored in very unexpected places too. So it's not always where you might think it might be stored. Like, let's say, you might think it could be stored in the heart space, but it actually then is stored in the feet. So that is a really helpful tool to be able to use for with Reiki energy. The other thing that can be helpful to use Reiki energy is with cord releasing. So what that means, many of us are familiar with the idea of cord cutting, and that is another tool that you could potentially use. I know that I don't think it's in the most current manuals, but it's been in the past manuals where people might use crystals or something like that for cord cutting. One of the things that I find with Reiki energy is that what Reiki energy actually can do is what's called kind of cord healing. It's the same concept where you were releasing cords, but in true Reiki fashion, it's actually can be emotional but gentler process, where rather than that kind of cut, it actually is lifting the cord, releasing the cord from the body and lifting it into the light. So, with PTSD, that can be a really big part of what can sort of keep people connected to the experience, not the only thing, but those spiritual level things that can be helpful for people who are navigating these spaces. So that would be another tool that I might use with the Reiki energy. And what you can do for that is that you can just have the intention that the cords and connectors that are connected to them are released into the light of Reiki where they are healed. That's the other thing about Reiki energy, is that it's going to heal the things that are released from them and also heal it for them. And that's another reason why I love working with Reiki energy with these things, so that they're just not kind of still floating out there. Sometimes a cord cut is the most appropriate thing. I still do cord cutting from time to time, but I would say that because they do need that direct, and you see that a little bit more with some things from PTSD than you might with other aspects. But I would say probably 98% of the time, I'm asking Reiki to come in and do cord healing. It almost, to me, if I were to imagine what it looks like, almost like dissolving, it looks like pixelated cords that move into the light of Reiki. Or if you're a Harry Potter fan, in the movies, when Voldemort dissolves into the ethers, that's kind of how I imagine it with that. So that's another tool that you can use with Reiki energy. And if you haven't watched the Harry Potter movies, you're like, what is she talking about? But if you have, yeah. So that's another tool that I would say I use with Reiki energy is cord dissolving for that. So yeah, Biosen scanning, releasing those places where it's stored, cord dissolving. I also had another one. Chakra work as well. Again, that's not something that you need to know a lot about, because Reiki energy is going to help with that. So one of the things that I might do is just, kind of the basic root sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown, is I might go and work on each of the chakras, especially the root chakra. That is a really big place that I see with people with PTSD, because that is their safety, it's their connection to the earth, that is their security. And that's where you can see that really big imbalance, and where you can see a lot of that kind of fight or flight aspects come in, is in that root chakra. So so that's a really big place. Now, what you can do is a symbol that's really, really good for that is the power symbol. So, oh gosh, CHK, is that the acronym for it? So the power symbol, the first symbol that kind of looks like a swirl. That's a very good symbol for that, because that does clearing work, and it also does filling work. So it can kind of release the things in the chakras that need to be released, but also fill them back up. And even with the intentions of filling them back up with the colors of that chakra. So you're going to have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So that's another thing that you can do. And even just placing the power symbol over each one of the chakras can be really helpful for this specifically. So that's another tool. Also, using the distance symbol to go back in, on the timeline, asking the distance symbol to help support maybe the events that have led to the PTSD. Now, that's one of the places that I would say to be really conscious of, because you can just have the intention and allow Reiki to do the work. However, when you are in a session with somebody that has experienced PTSD, that kind of intention can also be really triggering for people. So that is one of those places that would be something to really be very, very aware of. Maybe even have a conversation with the client of, do you mind if I send the distance symbol to just release what you're ready to let go of today and bring in what you are ready to bring in today, rather than making them have any, reliving of it or any specifics around it that they may not be ready for in that moment. That would be something to just really be conscious of, that talking about it can be really hard, can be really challenging for people, especially in spaces that are outside of, therapy, mental health spaces, where they are specifically trained on how to have these conversations, how to, be gentle with people in these conversations, and all the other training that comes with that. That I know it's way more than that. I just, for, kind of to summarize that. So while I have used that symbol to do some of that work, again, that's a place that I'm going to tread lightly, if I'm being, if I were to put it in a certain phrase, because I'm very aware of how that can feel for people in that moment, and that it is also can be very much out of the scope of my practice. And that's the other thing, the other term that I would use with all of this is just making sure we are staying within the scope of our practice. So if all of those tools are like, I just don't even know about that, then I would just say, just give Reiki, and that's going to do what it needs to do. And even if they are adding in the intention that I would like to help, I would like support with it, I would like help with it, then Reiki is going to do what it needs to do. And sometimes on a very basic level, that is just offering stress reduction for that hour or however long their session is, because that is huge. helping to calm that nervous system, or even just the amount of time that they are in a Reiki session, is huge, because sometimes that's the hardest thing to come by. And so just know that even if that is what they experience in that time frame, rather than all of those other details that I talked about, sometimes that is what they need the most. Sleep is what they need the most. And so they might fall asleep on the table, is what they need the most. And so that is really huge and beautiful. That is a part of what Reiki can do for people. It's just allow their body to relax for just even a little bit. And so know that that is equally as valid. So, and then Margaret Mary, I know that you wanted to add a little bit about this as well, being a Reiki master and so many other things as well. So I'm not sure if you wanted to go ahead and unmute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Margaret Mary. Most people know me as M. I am a Karuna Reiki master and a medical Reiki master and an animal Reiki master. A lot of people with PTSD or CPSD often have service animals, emotional support service animals, or, straight up, they're disabled in some way and they have a service animal. So all of that really comes together very nicely in the work that I do. And I concur with everything that Robyn shared, and I can speak to it as a personally, because I spent 9 months on a PTSD ward. I realized, I think at that point I had been in the Middle East about 10 years, and I realized I was at a threshold, and I chose for myself and my life, with the help of an amazing physician, and checked myself into a private PTSD hospital. Because I didn't want to be PTD'd, and PTD'd means permanently and totally disabled. I knew that wasn't going to work for me. So, definitely work with medicine, and, Reiki very much complements that. Although I didn't have that back then, that was my foothold, recognizing that I needed to remove myself from where I was and take a deep dive and do that work and learn what I needed to learn about myself and for myself, and really just started putting myself back together, not having any clue that like 24 years later, I'd be sitting here having this conversation from a personal and a professional point of view and experience. So what I tell people is I was Humpty Dumpty, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put me back together again. And so I just, like, I was, as a human and as a mom and as a wife, I was really committed to finding the solutions that weren't readily available. So conventional medicine, taking that big step back from the Middle East where I was serving and everything that went with that, and being very intentional in getting out of the 3 lower energy centers. And I call them the 3 F's, and they're not very polite, but food, blanking, and fighting, and really being mindful of what I was experiencing and what I didn't know at that time. And, what I've observed is we're all empathic, and that empathic stress of that situation and circumstances compounded religious trauma and childhood traumas, and just kept aggravating it. So thankfully, during COVID, I literally was guided to Reiki.org I know I typed something else in because I hit the back button and could not believe when Reiki.org came up. And I became attuned in October 2020. And that had been for me the missing link. And Robyn very beautifully expressed how this energy works so well with it. And I'm in my 4th and final year in Reiki Lifestyle's Next Step course work. And one of the things that we're often encouraged to do is to observe rather than engage. And that's how I practice Reiki. It's like, because for the longest time, I was like, I don't know what I don't know. So let's activate and then have the energy teach me. So I get to observe and really using complementary medicine, putting the person back together, using those modalities, nutritionally, the sleep. Yes, the sleep is ever so crucial. And you can have, as Robyn shared, it shows up in so many different places in the body. I had to giggle because I have 2 toes on my right foot. It's taken 6 years for one of the toenails to heal. And a month ago, it got re-injured. And it was like, wait a minute. So I had to, I did the research and it was like, okay. And then being intentional about using all the different levels of Reiki that I have and becoming more aware and more present here and now, not in the past and not in the future, just here, just now. And like Reiki on constantly for me. So I've been really, really committed to helping anyone and everyone that is at the effect of PTSD. Because on some level, as it occurred for me when I was on the PTSD ward, I went from one war zone to another. And that was a very internal war where everybody on that floor was doing their own internal battle work. And right now, I'm so happy to be able to do the work for myself and provide it to other people and their service animals. And the results are phenomenal. The distinctions that I learned in the Reiki Lifestyle Next Step coursework is to have it be gentle. I mean, I have changed the language that I use from life force to life source, just because I get the distinction, but for myself, life source is more gentle. It's more compassionate, which is what Karuna Reiki is. And then coupled with the medical Reiki that I took with Raven Keys last year was just phenomenal and flipped everything for me. And it is so nice to observe people often in a really short period of time. And that's only when they're truly committed to releasing that which no longer serves them. Literally walk on cloud 9 and be lighter and more freer in as short as 10 sessions. Some are a little bit more complex, and I am trained as a committed listener. I am not a counselor, and all I do is Reiki. I don't have any other modalities. So I've had some cases that have gone longer than 10. And I record all of my sessions and put a container around it and give the session to the client so that when something is occurring and we don't have a session slot already scheduled, it's like, okay, get your recording out, state your intention, turn on your recording, open your heart and receive. And they're just like, well, that was amazing. How did that happen? And I was like, it's all by intention. It's what you say, how your life goes. Now, if you're going to stay in the 3 lower energy centers and be focused on the denser energy, that's what you're going to have. And when you choose for yourself in your life to rise, that's what you have. So that's one of the beautiful things about World Peace, Holy Fire, Tree of Life, Reiki that I have observed is just one recording. It's Reiki on demand. Now, are there times where you need a little bit something else? A live session? Absolutely. Or a fresher recording that's a little bit more removed from the first session? Absolutely. You know what's best for yourself and to listen to your intuition and allow that inner guidance. Because now, in an observation I made, in that we are in the age of Aquarius now, we have left behind the age of outer authority, and we're now in the age of inner authority. So ask yourself first. Don't go looking for the answer outside of you. The answer is inside of you. And above all else, be empowered by that.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very, really appreciate it. And one of the things she said as well is, if possible, taking a Reiki class so they have the tool for themselves as well. So, yeah. And Danny, did you have anything to add or?
No, that was really great. I was just intently listening.
Happens, yeah.
Yeah, I know Emma's always really good with that kind of stuff. And I agree. And connection and community connection is also, with my clients, and not getting too deep and so much going back, but like Em was saying, like be present.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move to Julie.
I'm finished walking my dog, so I could ask my question.
Did you finish? Sorry, Julie, are you okay, or do you need us to come back?
No, I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
So I just recently have joined a network called Alignment, and through that, I've done a couple of pranic healing, and that's with a P, pranic healing meditations. And they've been really powerful. And I'm wondering if you know or are familiar with pranic healing and maybe the difference between that and Reiki that we practice.
Yeah, Julie, I actually don't. I mean, I know of pranic healing, but I don't know enough about it to, to say the differences between the two. So I don't know if you want to give me a little bit more details on pranic healing, or maybe there's somebody here that might know a little bit more about it.
Well, what I've been exposed to is they almost do it every other day, but they'll have a meditation, and they have like a pranic master, and he's actually deceased, but he's done a healing, and he chants Om besides taking you on it's a meditation. It's not really a journey. And it's to bring in light into your life, and also like he has you recall a very positive wonderful memory, and to envelop that memory, take it into your heart chakra and your crown chakra. And I've just tried this probably 3 times, and I'm seeing vibrant colors and feeling really at peace. And I was just curious if anyone here has ever experienced or knows about it.
Well, it sounds beautiful. I would say too, the other thing is ask it, and ask Reiki about, your questions as well. And I would imagine too, you could probably also Google people that are, might have some blogs around that are both as well. But if we don't have anybody in here that is at least versed in it, as I'm definitely not versed well enough in it, then I would say also ask Reiki, ask the pranic healing as well, ask in your meditations, and also ask Om as well, and see what it has to say about it all, and teach you personally from your own perspective as well, because that is one thing that Reiki energy can do, is it can help you to see how they complement each other, how they're a little different, how each one, and maybe even why you're called to them, and using them together. So that would be one of the things that I would say is allow it, and allow your practices to teach you. And then you can report back to us. Come tell us what it taught you.
I think that's great. They just celebrated, I think it's either Wosak or Wesak. It's from India. It's a holiday, and it's like almost like a high holiday. And I believe it's from I'm blanking on the word, but I think it's from Hinduism is what I think. And I don't need to know details. I was just curious if anyone here had experience. And I like I wrote down a couple of your ideas because I tend to forget, but I think that it's important. I feel, it's beautiful. It's very positive, and in light of the full moon that was yesterday, it's tapping into that beautiful energy. So thank you for that. And I had one other question, quick one.
It actually looks like, before we move on, Julie, I wondered, Susanna, when you popped your video on, do you know about it? Is that why you had raised your hand? Oh, no, it was a separate question. Okay. All right. I'm going to write you down then. Okay, go ahead, Julie. You said you had a question.
Then another question I have is, I am going to be privileged to take Reiki Master from William Lee Rand in June. And I was just curious, is there any recommendation in waiting to then get the classes on Karuna Reiki, or should I just ask Reiki after I get the master, about, going ahead with that?
Well, so your question, I just want to make sure, is that how long after should you take Karuna Reiki after the master?
Right.
Okay. Well, there is a 6-month waiting period in between the Reiki master and the Karuna Reiki master. So you'll have to wait at least the 6 months. It's kind of the same thing as the Reiki 1 and 2 and the Reiki masters, that there's that 6-month waiting period. And the reason for that is not to kind of have a rule around it. The reason behind that is actually to allow the energy to integrate, because you use the energy, you learn from it. It does kind of, I hesitate to use the word elevate, but I can't think of the exact right word right now. It elevates your own energy signatures and frequencies. And that way you get to know the energy itself as well. So after the 6 months, if you are called to take the Karuna Reiki, then you will be able to take the Karuna Reiki. If you want to wait longer, there's nothing wrong with that. There can be people that wait years and then are finally called to take the Karuna Reiki class. So there's not really a right or wrong. That would just be a listening around that of like, okay, now is the time that I am called to take Karuna Reiki. And sometimes that also can be, you know, how it fits in to your schedule. Maybe you're eligible in December, but there's not a class until February or March that you're interested in taking. So sometimes there's those practical pieces to it as well. So there's not really a right or wrong, but you will have the 6 months in between the two courses that you will be able to kind of listen at a deeper level around that and for when it is calling to you to take. Does that make sense? And you're on mute. I don't know if you had said anything. There you go.
Yes, that makes total sense. And I appreciate, I just appreciate you guys' programming. For want of a better word, it's a gift. I just came to Reiki a couple years ago, and in the last year, I've been coming as often as I can, and thank you for blessing everyone, and especially your teachings and your gifts.
Thank you, Julie. Are you taking the Karuna with William at Omega?
I'm actually traveling to the UK. My best friend lives in London, so we're very.
Oh, that's so fun! Oh, wow,
I am so excited.
And did you know about Christine's Reiki share as well?
I did. I've emailed with her. I won't be in Glastonbury that day, but I can join, on Zoom. I wish I could swing it, but I have to take a train to get there. So
absolutely.
A train and a taxi. So
fantastic. Oh, that's really exciting. How fun.
And it's a blessing. I was really struggling with, do I actually spend the money? Is this right? And I let go, and I believe I let go of my control and ego, and I just got, yes, you need to see your friend, and this is just a wonderful blessing. So
you're going to love it. That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you, Julie.
Many blessings.
You too.
Okay.
And I had mentioned Christine's, she's coffee. Danny, do you have a little more information about that? I think she posted it on her Facebook yesterday. I just want to say it since I briefly mentioned it. Christine Coffee is hosting a Reiki circle with William in the UK in Glastonbury, right?
I believe so, yes. I don't have all the information on it, and they were going back and forth if it was going to be a share or something different than that. So I'm not quite sure exactly what the information is, but you can go, I think it's Colors of Reiki. Is that her?
Colors of the Soul or Colors of Reiki? Is it something?
Colors of Reiki. And
Colors of Reiki.
It is in Glastonbury.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So you can go to Colors of Reiki to find out more information about that. If you're going to be in Glastonbury, or if you're going to be in the UK and anywhere in that area, and that is with William. It's a Reiki share with William, and you can find out more about that. And she's on Facebook too. She just posted about it yesterday. So I thought I would share it since I mentioned it. And if you can get a hold of us and we could send you the information too. So, all right, Caroline.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a fairly simple question about an in-person Reiki share.
Mm-hmm.
I've started facilitating one in my community through my local yoga center. And I'm friends with the yoga teacher, and she is one of my Reiki students. So she's been attuned to levels 1 and 2. So it's a small Reiki share. Only 15 people can fit in there. And in the beginning, I thought that I was mainly going to attract students that I had taught before to create a community amongst them. But the way it's turned out, at one of the Reiki shares, it was only me and my yoga teacher that were attuned. So the reason I say that is everybody else in the room has either never experienced Reiki before, or they've only experienced it like one or two other shares that I've done. So there's not, the reason I say that, there's not like a lot of background knowledge about what they're going to expect, or, you know, kind of all the depth that we go into with our discussions. So with all that said, when you do your online Reiki shares, I know that y'all give the guidelines before we go in the breakout rooms about only using Reiki as the modality, because that's what people are coming for, is Reiki, and then also not processing each other. Well, that's different in a breakout room than it is in a big room with 15 people, right? So when you've done the Reiki shares at your mom's house before, did you say those same things before there was a time of sharing, or before there was any kind of like any kind of talking, you know, amongst people? Like how did y'all come up with those parameters, and what should I be saying in that type of setting where 12 of the people may have never experienced Reiki before, and, you know, they want to be in a safe place. I want them to be in a safe place, all of those things.
Yeah, that's a great question, Caroline. It's of course going to depend on the Reiki circle that you are hosting, because like you said, your situation is very different than the Reiki share. But also that actually where that came from was the in-person Reiki shares. Okay. Because we did have it come up a couple of times, the majority of people there were actually either trained or were trained in Reiki, and we had a lot of the light song school people come in too. So that is, for those of you that don't know, that's the Light Song School of Shamanic Studies that was here in Portland, and you know, where Colleen was a really big part of that school. So we did have a lot of people that would come in from there as well. So that was actually part of the reason that we had established that. And because so many people had this, like the journeying skills as well, it was a part of their practice. For, like you said, the new people that weren't necessarily expecting it, came for Reiki, didn't like basically ask to be processed in that kind of way. It was really, it could be really alarming for some of them. Mm-hmm. And so that is why we had to kind of set that precedent, why we had to kind of set those guidelines. Obviously, in your situation, it's a bit different because it's just you and your and the yoga teacher at this point. So it might, so, you know, you might establish those rules with her outside of the circle, but you also get to listen to your own guidance around how to do it. Because they're relatively new, yeah, it makes sense to me that it might not be something that you would say, because they're not giving Reiki in the same way, because they're not attuned to Reiki, or maybe even other modalities. Also, having said that, it could be that they're coming in because they are, do you find a lot of them are coming in from the yoga studio because they are curious about it?
Well, and that's the reason I did it, because I was having such a hard time attracting people with just putting signs up places. Mm-hmm. So I knew she already had people that were going to sound bath, you know, the crystal bowl things, people going to restorative, people going to yin yoga. And I thought, gosh, this would be a great place to kind of find like-minded people. But I also want to create a place where my students who have been attuned to Reiki can come and maybe practice receiving impressions from people and practice using their clairsenses. But at what point do I say, hey, you know, maybe you should wait till after the session or after the Reiki share to talk with them about that, instead of like announcing it to everybody? Like, And I mean, it was so cute the way she did it. She went around and said, I saw this with you and this with you and this with you and this with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of her. And then I saw one lady just kind of go like this. I was like, oh, and then I thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it might be something that because when it comes to even sessions, like for me, a new client, I'm going to ask if they are interested in that kind of session or not. And so you are going to have some people that are there with a totally different, idea of what they are looking for in Reiki. And I do still have clients that want just straight Reiki with very little processing and not also adding in, like you said, some of those impression pieces. And then a lot of people, that's what they're there for. They want to come for that kind of style of session. And with that group of people, you're going to have, like you said, a mix of people that are like, oh my gosh, amazing. And then others that aren't. So what I would maybe think about is asking on, having her ask on, or you or whoever your students ask the client if they are okay with that, or if they would prefer to not have that, which is actually really great practice anyways, because I do feel like it is a good thing to establish with new clients up front in general.
And that's kind of similar to what I do before we get started anyway. I say, does anybody not want to be touched? Please raise your hand. And maybe at the same time, I could kind of tie that other thing in. At the past share, I just kind of made it a teachable moment. I said, well, what she just did, she was receiving impressions and she was using her clairsenses and this and that. And then I said, but I need y'all to know that when you receive these impressions, you have no obligation to share it with anybody. And I just kind of left it at that. So I think that was mainly.
I think it sounds like you're doing a great job and you're listening, and there are going to be that kind of adaption and flow as the circle takes on its own kind of qualities, its own, because that's different for every person, right? It's taking on its own kind of personality in a beautiful way. And so it sounds like, yeah, okay, we had this happen. And so maybe I'm going to adapt, and we had this happen. And so, I would like to do this in addition to what I'm doing. And here's how I might, say that. But yeah, it is a really good thing to establish anyways in general.
Another thing I do before I get started is I let them know that this is exactly the way I structure my Reiki circle is just like I do a private session. We do an invocation, we share, give and receive Reiki, and then afterwards there's time for discussion. And then there's a little time for discussion before. It just kind of matters the mood I feel in the class that day. But I pretty much let them know what to expect, which is exactly what I would want.
Yeah, I love that. I think that sounds fantastic. And yeah, just keep listening around it. It's going to also bring in the people that are looking for that kind of thing, especially once they start telling their friends, like, oh, you'll never believe about this Reiki share, and I received the most amazing information.
Well, one of my students is going to sub for me in May because I'm doing that Mary Magdalene tour in France, and I'll be gone.
I didn't know that you were doing that. Oh my God. Okay. We'll have to talk about that separately, but that's
yeah. So, she's going to sub for me, and I'm basically just going to let her go freestyle. Is that what you would do? Just follow her own inner guidance about how to do it? Or should I, kind of, because she hasn't ever come to my share before. And
I would say probably, because if she ever led a Reiki share, I would say give her some guidelines, not because of anything that she could do wrong, but I mean, you all know how it is. The first time you host a Reiki share, you're nervous. And so it is actually really helpful to have some guidelines, some like, here's what I do, here's how I say this, here's, some of the things. Let her be in how she wants to do it. And then at the same time, here's the ways that I do it, just for ideas more than like saying she should or shouldn't do it a certain way. Because I know, like, the first time you're like, okay, what's the structure that I should have? How do I do this? And then you're kind of nervous about it. And so that's what I would say is more than anything, just to help her rather than give her rules around it.
I'd give her like a basic outline.
Yes, there you go. A template. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caroline. Oh, I can't wait to hear. Danny, I know you host some circles. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I love that. I think it's great. And I also would read my circle too, and who's coming, and everyone in my circle basically had Reiki, so it was a little bit different. But I didn't get into depth. So some didn't have holy fire, for instance, and so I didn't talk about that. I just kept it very straightforward, and kind of kept it the same each time, just so they would know what to expect, kind of like what we do in our distance Reiki shares. So it's like, okay, we're going to start with the invocation. We'll do this. We'll do Reiki on each other, and then we'll end and close, just so they know what to expect. But it sounds amazing. I think it's great. And yeah, it sparks interest, and good luck. It'll be great. I can't wait to hear more.
And Caroline, what town are you in? Just so if anybody's in the area, they know where to find a Reiki share.
I'm in Monroe, Louisiana.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. So if you have any questions and you're in that area, in the surrounding area, or in Monroe, you can get a hold of Caroline Youngblood is her name.
Yeah, CarolineYoungblood.com is how they can get my contact information.
Perfect. All right. Okay, and so next we have Kathy. I don't know if you wanted to unmute and ask your question. There you are.
Hi, it's kind of like following Carolyn. So how do you block people from coming into your space when you're in a circle?
Oh, interesting. Yes, that is a good question. So you mean energetically?
Uh-huh. So it's like when I'm in a circle, like their higher self will jump into my space. How do I keep them from coming in? So I can actually feel like if they have cancer, like it's just weird. How do I block them from jumping into my space?
So are you saying that they're doing it intentionally, or it's more of an empathic thing?
Empathic.
Empathic.
I'm
Okay.
not in there like, look at me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a great question, Kathy. And I would say kind of more of the idea of the empathy, which, we do talk about quite a bit. So I just wanted to add to that. I know that we also have, if on YouTube, I think you can even search for empathy and empathic, where we might have like an even longer talk or even podcast episodes that we have with people for that, and just kind of maybe additional things. But being empathic is definitely one of the things within Reiki that we find a lot, that I think a lot of us are called to Reiki because we are empathic. And so one of the first things that I would say is building your container, your own personal container, when you are in these spaces before you go into these spaces. Also, you might even do it before you go into the grocery store. For example, I know when you're highly empathic, things like that can really affect you, and you tend to take them on. As Margaret Mary said earlier, you absorb rather than observe. And it is definitely a part of being empathic that is really, really challenging. And then you go into any energetic spaces, and it's additionally challenging because we're in these spaces where we're doing energy work. And so I would say it's, kind of to an even deeper level. So the first thing to know is that container, like I said. So before I go into these spaces, before I go into a challenging space, maybe there's a common one would be maybe a challenging family gathering. That is, you're needing, the support of Reiki energy to keep from absorbing these things. It's also in the places of like these public spaces that can be really hard. So when you're doing that, what I will do is I will actually sit in my car or before I leave, and I will put a bubble of Reiki around me. And I'm not highly empathic like some people are. I mean, I think, like I said, we're all empathic to a certain level, but I know that people are even more empathic than me, where it's like everything feels like it, you kind of take on everything. So using the Reiki energy, if you're attuned to any of the symbols, using the symbols, and actually I kind of even imagine it in my mind's eye as a Reiki light that is all the way around me, and that is going to act as kind of a filter. Also, you could use the word maybe shield. Problem with shield is it's a little bit, then you also may bounce things out that you want in. But Reiki does know where to go and what to do around that kind of idea. So the first 3 Usui symbols are really, really helpful for that. So placing them around you. Also, if you know that you're going to be going to a place where this can commonly happen, definitely using the distance symbol to send it ahead. Also, there has been times where I've forgotten to do it, and I will send the distance symbol back to myself because I'm like, oh, I forgot. Like, and you can feel the difference. And then when you activate the distance symbol and you send it back to yourself, you can literally feel the difference even in your body around that. The other thing to know is, you can spend the time in these, building or creating these containers or creating these bubbles, but also you can do it on the fly. So let's say, oh, I didn't, I'm not going to spend a ton of time into it. I am heading into the grocery store, I'm sitting in my car and I just do a quick gasho and Reiki on, put that field of light around me, that light of love. I have the intention that I am not taking on anybody else's stuff. I have the intention that I am always, and you are always completely sovereign in your body, that nothing else has the right to have that any power over you, or to be in your body out your permission. And not to say that you're giving it your permission now, I don't mean it that way, but just that understanding that that you have full sovereignty within you, and that running the Reiki energy through you helps you with that, and running the Reiki around you also helps you with that. And so I will do that, pretty much every time that I'm going into a public space. Then if I'm really able, I will spend more time with it. If I'm going into ceremony, for example, if I'm going into a Reiki share, for example, where I'm going to, spend a few minutes, spend maybe 5 minutes actually just sending Reiki to that bubble, to that filter around you. So that's the first thing. If you work with any spirit guides, that's another thing, another tool that you can use to help with that process. Angels, the archangels can be really helpful in that process. If you have any power animals, you can ask them to come in to help you with that protection around it. Also, filling with that Reiki energy so that your empathy, that's all that's, within you. You're full of the Reiki energy. And when you're full of the Reiki energy, it's like there's no room for anything else. But yeah, the power animals, the spirit guides, the archangels, place them around you, ask them for your support, for their support. And then over time, what ends up happening, and although it sounds like this is already happening for you, is you're really able to be in that discernment around it of like, okay, this is theirs, this is not mine. I don't accept this. No, thank you. Ask the Reiki energy to come in and lift it from you if it does happen. And you do build that trust in the Reiki energy over time to kind of know that your container works, that they don't get to have that ability to, like you said, kind of jump over their energy signatures, to jump over it, to come, for you to absorb them, or for them to kind of, for you to feel it. It sounds like for the most part, it's not on purpose. It's more of the empathic things that, it's more of the empathic parts of you that you're using the Reiki energy for, that empathy that you have so strongly. Also, if it asking the Reiki energy, if it does happen to come in and release that from you, another tool that you can use is Kenyoku, which is the dry bathing. For anybody that doesn't know, that's the dry bathing that you can learn in Reiki 1 and 2. It's a Japanese Reiki technique, and that's where you are going from the shoulder to the hip. And then also, I'm trying to get this on camera, also in the arms. And what that is doing is clearing energy from you.
Okay.
And so that's another tool that you can use. I use that coming out of the grocery store all the time. So that's a really good one as well. And that tool. And then also the power symbol is a clearing and a filling that you can use as a specific symbol to use if it does happen.
Okay. And does that work? Like, sometimes they follow me. So can I have them say, stop, you got to go home or something?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Have authority with it. You get to have authority with it. Nothing has the right to come into your plane of energy, to anything like that. And send it Reiki. Be like, okay, I send you Reiki healing. No, go home. Okay. And send it Reiki, because it might be that part of what's happening for you is that especially like you had kind of mentioned, that you pick up on impressions around it all, which is not uncommon in these spaces, just to let you know too. You get, you can have those really psychic.
Yeah. And it's starting to get to where, I don't really want to go to the store.
Yeah.
It overloads me. There's so much stuff out there. It's just like I can't breathe.
Yeah. I see a couple people nodding their heads.
So I was just wondering.
Yeah. I see a couple people nodding their heads, Kathy, because it's not an uncommon experience in these spaces, which is why people are drawn to these spaces. So yeah, absolutely. Use the Reiki energy. Why a part of they might be drawn to you is because of that light, moths to flames type of idea of like, there's some healing that is offered by the Reiki energy that this person carries. And so what you can do is, yes, absolutely send them home. You don't have any responsibility over that. And you can use the Reiki energy to just, it's almost like it's kind of what it's showing is like, Reiki on, you take it and go away from me, type of idea. It's almost like showing a ball of energy. You can just they get their own ball and they can go home. So absolutely, you get to have the authority. And then in those cases, I don't know if you work with any Reiki guides or spirit guides or angels or ascended masters, that you can also bring in as, protection. And if they if you sense that you just want to send them Reiki and send them home, you can also say, hey, can you, well, I've got Raven right in front of me, right? So I'll just use that for example. Raven, can you send them home? But also, if you want to send them some Reiki or some healing energy, your guides can take care of that for you as well.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I'm allowed to say, okay, you got to go home, but here's some Reiki that you can take with you. So we're allowed to do that without asking permission?
It's a little different than sending them Reiki directly. What you're doing is you are just giving the Reiki, whether they want to take it or not, because everybody, Reiki does no harm. And so it's not like you're directly, I'm sending you personally Reiki. It's not like you're doing that. You're just giving the situation Reiki. And so if there is something, a reason why they were kind of attracted to that light, they were looking for that Reiki light a little bit, it is just giving Reiki to the situation. And maybe there's something for them in that. You're not saying, oh, I'm sending, you have Mark in front of you at the store, and, something about it is breaching your energy signature. And so you're not saying, okay, here you go, Mark, in your mind's eye, of course, I'm sending you Reiki. You're like, okay, I'm sending Reiki to whatever was needed here that made that kind of come into my space. And it's not necessarily like you're sending it directly to him. It's a weird thing to pull. I don't even have any Marks in my life. I don't know why Mark came through. Anyways, but yeah, so it's not necessarily you're sending it directly. You're just kind of sending it to the situation.
Okay, great. So it's not like me get a ball and chuck it at him.
No, you're just like, like you're just allowing the Reiki energy to kind of go where it's needed and what it needs to do. And I would just send it to the situation. It might have been a little bit of a bad example, but it was just kind of like what it was. I think it was trying to be metaphorical for me. And I said it too literally. So, yeah. And then also with if you have any spirit guides or anything, that's another really good tool. And that's more for your own kind of protection than anything else.
Okay, so I can go to the store comfortably.
Absolutely. And just so you know, Kathy, you're not alone. And I only say that to normalize for you and for others that experience this, because it's not uncommon that people feel this way, and that empathy can be so strong that you do tend to absorb what is other people's, but you do not have any responsibility for that and to that you get to be within your own power, and that Reiki energy is a huge support, a huge help for this. And over time, you're going to feel a difference immediately. And then at the same time, also it does take a little bit of time to be kind of fully in that trust of it, all of those kinds of things that can take a little bit of time in building those tools and building those skills. But you can absolutely start right away and ask Reiki to come in. And also you might find your own things that are going to be helpful. And Reiki can help guide that as well. Because a part of it is also what language can get us there, right? What language can we bring in that really fully imparts that wisdom of the idea that I do not need to take any of these things on, especially when you're in the grocery store. It's a little harder when it's other people. That's more, or people that we're close to, that's more of a process. But people that you don't know, you certainly do not need to take their stuff on. But as for the empaths, that's also the hardest part. So just know that you might feel an immediate difference, but that it also can take time to have the full awareness and the full skill for you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And go ahead, Margaret Mary. I see that. I know that you have the empathy. So.
Yes, one of the things that you shared, Robyn, that I just wanted to follow up with, I use this technique that I learned in my next step classes, and it's in the manuals, is beaming. When, I create the container or the bubble around me, especially when I'm working with animals, or other individuals, because when we're out and about, we can, at least for myself, I know when something's coming towards me. So I will just beam Reiki. My hands will be down by my side. I'll beam the energy in another direction. And when it comes to the higher self, you know, beaming it up or into the earth, just following that intuition, because it is compassionate, it is kind, and it's fascinating as I get to observe how much it just follows whatever it is. It just follows that energy. And it's you know, because I signed up to observe. Teach me everything I don't know, and it's following that guidance. And beaming has been really, really helpful for myself in those public spaces. And I live in a resort area, and we're really going up right now. And there's the old part of me would want to duck and cover into a foxhole, and that doesn't work. It's impractical. It doesn't serve anyone, least of all myself. And because we can beam with our eyes and our breath, and I'm not blowing into people's faces or anything. I'm just releasing, but beaming and using my feet and my hands, Reiki trails. You know, when I took animal Reiki that first time, that really, really lit me up. So one of the great ways that we can support ourselves, because when we get connected to ourselves and know this is not me, and with love and light, you know, you can go to the earth, you can go to the heavens, you can return, and that it be done with love, like true, authentic love and compassion, and just a very, very powerful yet gentle, sourceful release. Not a forceful one, you know, I'm rubber, you're glue, but more like, okay, you can go with love and light. So I just wanted to share that it can be that simple, being with your eyes, your breath, and your hands directing wherever it's going, wherever it needs to go, because Reiki knows what it's doing.
Yeah, thanks, Em.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Good question. It's always a question. Go ahead, Danny.
I was just going to add to that. When I first learned Reiki, I was a student of Colleen's, not working with her yet, many years ago. And I was so excited. And I started volunteering Reiki at a pretty large cancer clinic in Portland. And I would go in and I would do the prep in my car and everything. And I would go in and I would start absorbing whoever I was working on. I mean, I would start actually choking, like where I'd have to leave the client and go get water. I mean, it was choking. And so I called Colleen afterwards and I felt horrible. I mean, I had a headache. I felt my stomach was sick after I went home. And I called Colleen and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And she goes, well, you're absorbing it, you know, versus observing it. And just, that's not what Reiki is. So it's a really big lesson. So that was like when I very first started, and I've never forgotten that. And so now I volunteer Reiki here in Eugene at the cancer clinic. And before I go in, I do my prep. I always put a little crystal in my pocket that I imbue. And I go in, and what I do is after each client or patient, I nonchalantly do the dry bathing as I'm walking to the sink, and I wash my hands after each. And I just imagine it going, you know, the water taking it away, the energy, and not be absorbed in it at all. So anyway, I just wanted to, there's all different kinds of ways of, and also clearing. I mean, when I went back in my car, I sat there and intentionally cleared. Just so I wasn't even taking anything with me. So
Yeah,
that's it.
That's great. Thank you so much. And yeah, there's all sorts of ways to clear: showers, smoke clearing. I love the idea of crystal, putting a crystal in your pocket, Kathy, smoky quartz or black tourmaline. There's other protection stones, but those are a couple of, kind of more common, easy ones that you could do as well. So, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. Good. I'm going to write all that down.
Yes. Also, this will be on the recording that will be up Monday. So if there's anything that you missed, you definitely can re-listen to it, and go check out other things about empathy, being empathic, because in these circles, you get people that are very, very empathic. And even if you're not, like, I'm empathic, but not to the level like you're saying you are, Kathy, you still can take on stuff. And, but if you are really, really empathic, it definitely affects your life, like you're saying. So yeah, go definitely check out other things about it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Susanna.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much for all these are just so really great for me. Yeah, it's just such a blessing that I discovered you through Molly McCord, of course. So she's one of my favorites. I've been following her for years. And I mean, she's like my therapist.
It's so true. We agree, Susanna. I would love her and agree. Like, and then there's some times where her stuff is so spot on that I'm like, okay, I can't listen to this right now because I can't go into all my stuff. I have to wait a moment.
Right.
I know you know what I mean.
Yeah. Like, let me do that chart part later.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it's really, really fun because it's so deep and really helps me dig in. But sometimes I just can't. But most of the time I do. I try to stay up with all this stuff.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Anyway, yeah, she really is. So anyway, yeah. So these really, really help me. And I really would like to develop a business, but I'm still developing. And I've been part of these mantra circles, or study groups, or whatever you want to call them, where we, these are only online. I haven't found any in person, but it's more like the Kirtan stuff, where everybody gets together and sings. And so I think I should attend more. This is what I came up with while I was seeking, what you thought about combining, like Reiki with a mantra circle or something. Because I was thinking, maybe that would be a good idea to like pull people together and just say, we're gonna, do this mantra together, and then, whoever wants to join in for the Reiki share or healing together, you don't have to be, what's the word, activated in Reiki. You can just join in and be a part of it if you like. And, I felt like it might be a great idea to maybe combine the two. But it is taking on a lot, but it is a very healing modality. And I feel like it really heals everybody, in a lot of ways. Although, I am really compassionate, and I feel like I pick up everything, and I'm always doing this because, I have to just clear a lot, because I'm really, I guess, compassionate or whatever. I'm just always wanting to help. But then I can't help myself, if I do that too much. So, and then I take, sometimes I'm not clearing because I'm so in it.
Of course.
And, I carry the cloud around, so I need to constantly be on top of, doing my stretches and whatever it is, my clearings, to make sure I'm still, I'm not carrying things, because I'm always taking things on, I feel. And then I get stuck and I can't move further because I'm afraid or whatever. And I don't even realize it. It's just, I'm stuck back there in that other timeline or whatever it is, and it's holding me back. So I just need to keep moving. But yeah, the point was that I'm just so grateful for you guys and girls, women that are also in this thing. I've only been doing Reiki since I learned a few years ago. I took everything. I'm like, I guess Reiki master now. I did it during COVID early on, and then I did a angelic liquid light modality on top of it. And so I just took level 2 again just last weekend, and it was so, I mean, I'm just like, and my phone broke this weekend. So part of me is like, am I still just feeling the activations, or is it the phone EMFs coming off on me? So I've got to get a new phone. It's torturing. It's not broken, like, falling apart. It's cracked. So I'm tortured over that because I don't have the money right now to replace a phone. So it's going to have to go on partially a charge card and pay monthly. And I just hate having to owe anything, just torture. But, it is what it is. Eventually, hopefully I can just pay it off and be done with it. But anyway, it's just part of life. And I have to have the acceptance around it and just trust that I'm taken care of, somehow. Anyway, what do you think about the circle of, maybe doing mantra circle, promoting that? A lot of people.
I know people. Cami Cote, who is a colleague, she actually combines Reiki with Kirtan.
Oh.
Yeah. So she is heart rhythm Reiki, and she's out of Montana. But I know that she leads groups and circles in Reiki and Kirtan, and also other forms of sound healing. And it's beautiful. I actually, when we were at the Reiki retreat I think it was last year. Yeah. Cause I haven't gone a few years before that. So last year, I got to experience it from her. And what she's doing is she is actually, kind of in the same way as Kokiho, Reiki with your breath. She has activated the Reiki energy and she's sending it out in the chanting. And it's really powerful. So
right. I feel like that's part of my Sangha is, I feel like she does that. The Deva Primal, is beautiful in her music that she's got albums out and everything, her and her husband. But anyway, they're head of this, Sangha. And it's just beautiful. They have different things in Costa Rica. I have not gone there and met them in person or anything, but I am a part of the Sangha. And so I feel like she's definitely been activated and has shamanic talents and all of that. So I feel their music is just, we just radiate to each other, It's
fantastic.
Really,
yeah, absolutely. And beautiful. It's not in place of any of that. It's just also, in addition to, and it is, if you're creating your own circle, it is in your area. Where are you located, Susanna?
I'm in the Berkshires in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Know a few people that are in the Berkshires. But if you are going to be creating your own circle, that would be a way that you would consider doing it. So you would be activating Reiki, having the intention that Reiki flows out on the sound to your circle. And yeah, I think it would be a beautiful combination. Yeah.
I mean, just really, because I'm sure that there's other ones, but I was thinking, maybe first I should get out there but it's hard to just have my hand in everything and take care of my situation. So
absolutely. Yeah. It takes time, just so you know, it takes time. And we were, talking yesterday of definiteness of purpose, sustained over time, always produces results, but it all takes time. And so you just do it one step at a time to the the way that you're able to, and just really listening. It sounds like you're doing that into what is my next step, where, and that's all you kind of need to consider in the moment. It's like you have your extended goals, and then also, you have what's the one next thing. And that is, all that we can do and all that we have to do. And even years into a business, it's still the same thing. It just looks slightly different. And so do what you can do. And if you just continue over time, know that eventually you get there. But it all does take time. And you were saying earlier, and I know Sharon put this in the chat, that as far as that empathic piece of it, yeah, sometimes intellectually we say that and then we still forget. And that's okay, because that happens even when we are years down the road of our practice and you still forget. And that's why I was saying that, when that happens, and it happened to me relatively recently in the last 6 months or so in a family event, I forgot. And I always have my Reiki bubble around me. And I forgot. And it made a difference when I came out of there. I was like, oh. And then I realized, like, oh, I didn't set my container around myself. Duh, no wonder I feel this way. And I did it in that moment. And I sent the distance symbol back to myself and Reiki energy back to myself, imagining myself in my car, setting my container before I went in. And I felt myself shift in that moment, because it did go through space and time. And it was like, I went back, I had my container set, and all of the story that I had in my head, all of the things that I had in my head immediately shifted. It's very normal and natural. And, then other times we forget for days and we realize, like, oh, that's what's going on. All of that, we're not going to be perfect at it, but that's also part of the journey. That's part of it all. And, we get better at it over time. It shifts over time. And at the same time, there's still going to be times where we forget. I mean, you should hear Colleen and I say, oh yeah, we can use Reiki for that. Like, duh, duh.
Right.
She's been doing this for almost 30 years. Like, so it's like, okay, if she forgets, then it's pretty normal and natural that I'm going to forget. It's okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. And we're so glad that you are here with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, I think that we are at time. Danny, is there anything else that?
No, I think that's great. It was good conversation. A lot to soak in.
Yes, definitely. And great questions and insights from all of you as well, and adding to the conversation. That super appreciated. And you know what? One other thing that I wanted to add, just kind of what I was saying to Susanna about the, realities of our life too. Sometimes it does just have to be quick. Reiki on, and that still helps. Reiki doesn't have a time requirement for us. We get to have that. That's the one thing. That's one of the things about it that's so amazing, is that because it's an enlightened energy, it doesn't have any of the, ideas that you have to spend a certain amount of time with it in order for it to be there for us. Now, we like the times where we get to spend time in it, and I have amazing experiences in that, and those are important too. But it doesn't mean that we don't get to just be Reiki on. I mean, that's what Mrs. Takata said, Reiki on, and have it come in and support us. So anyways, I meant to add that before, and I forgot. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Danny, thank you so much. And to all of you that are here with us live, and those of you that are listening later, lots of love to you, and we will see you on the next one.